Inventory management, economic order, quantity. Now, in this presentation, we look at the concept of EOQ as one of the techniques of managing inventories. Now, EOQ is that order quantity that will result in the total amount of the ordering and holding costs being minimized. So it's that order quantity that minimizes the inventory costs of ordering and holding. To calculate EOQ, there is a formula we use, and this formula is square root 2DO over H. So we have to get the square root of 2DO over H, where D stands for the total demand for the period, O is the ordering cost per order, H is the holding cost per unit. Those are the variables in the EOQ formula. Now, the relevant costs that should be considered when determining the optimal inventory levels consist of the holding costs and the ordering costs. Holding costs are those costs incurred to hold the inventories. And of course, they consist of the opportunity cost of investment in inventories, the incremental insurance costs because you have to insure the inventories, the incremental warehouse and storage costs, incremental material handling costs, talk about the cost of obsolescence and deterioration of inventories. Then you also have the ordering costs, those incremental costs that are incurred when preparing purchase orders, receiving deliveries, and paying invoices. When we are determining the EOQ, we have to only consider the relevant costs. Those are the incremental cost of holding inventories and the incremental cost of placing an order. So the relevant cost of inventories, that is ordering costs plus the holding costs. The ordering cost plus the holding costs. How would we calculate ordering costs? We get the D, that is the demand, over Q, then times O. In other words, here we get the number of orders, times the cost per what? Times the cost per order. These are the ordering costs. So that's how we get the ordering cost. You get the number of orders times the cost per order. Then to get the holding costs, here we get a half times the EOQ, then times H. H stands for the holding cost per unit. H stands for the holding cost per, H stands for the holding cost per unit. So that's how we get the holding costs. You get the half of the EOQ, then times the cost per order, times the holding cost per unit. How do you get the number of orders? To get number of orders, here we get our annual demand over the EOQ. To get the number of orders, we get the annual demand over the EOQ. So that is the computation of the relevant cost of inventories. We get the ordering costs plus the holding costs. We get the ordering cost plus the holding cost. You need to know how to compute these because you may be asked to determine the relevant cost of inventories. We have an illustration here, which I'm going to use to show you how we can come up with the EOQ, as well as how we can come up with the total relevant cost of inventories. How we can come up with the total relevant cost of inventories. So we have been told that a company purchases a raw material from an outside supplier at a cost of shillings 9,000 per unit. The total annual demand for this product is 40,000 units, and the following additional information is available. Holding cost per unit is 1,000. Then the cost per purchase order is shillings 2,000. You're required to determine the optimal order quantity and the relevant cost for the optimal order quantity. In other words, you're required to calculate the EOQ. Then after calculating EOQ, you will be required also to come up with the relevant cost for this EOQ. Let me summarize our data on the next page, and then we'll see how we can compute the EOQ and then the relevant cost of inventories. So we have the annual demand in the question. Annual demand, we have 40,000 units. We have our cost per order. Cost per order is how much? Let me check this. Cost per order is 2,000. Okay. The cost per order is shillings 2,000. The holding cost per unit is shillings 1,000. Now to come up with the EOQ, don't forget our formula. Which is 2 PO over the H. So we just substituting this formula. We have demand is 40,000 units times the cost per order, which is 2,000. We divide this by the holding cost per unit, which is 1,000. And this gives us EOQ of how many units? This gives us EOQ of 400 units. So our EOQ is 400. We have that EOQ of 400 units. That is our EOQ, 400 units. After getting the EOQ, then of course you're also required to compute the relevant cost for the optimal order quantity. We are also required to compute the relevant cost. The the optimal order quantity. Optimal order quantity, that is your EOQ. That is the EOQ. So EOQ is the optimal order quantity. So they want us to compute the relevant cost for the optimal order quantity. And this relevant cost equals to the ordering costs plus the holding costs. Ordering cost, we get our demand over the EOQ times the cost per order, then plus a half EOQ times the holding cost per unit. So therefore, to get the ordering cost, we get our demand, which is 40,000 over the EOQ of 400 times the cost per order, which is shillings, 2,000, then plus our EOQ, a half of the EOQ, which is 400, times the holding cost per unit, which is shillings, 1,000. So this gives us how much? 40 divided by 400 times 2,000. This gives us 200,000. Half of 400, that is 200 times 1,000, which gives us shillings. 200,000. Therefore, the relevant cost for this optimal order quantity is shillings 400,000. Remember, 400 units, this is the order size, which minimizes our inventory costs, and the inventory cost to be incurred at that order size of 400 units is 400,000. So in this video, we have talked about the EOQ technique and how to calculate EOQ, and then how to come up with the relevant cost of inventories. In the next presentation, we are going to look at how we can incorporate quantity discounts in the EOQ model. We shall look at the assumptions of the EOQ formula, as well as how to compute the cost of prediction error. Don't forget to share this video with those other friends, as long as you believe that they will benefit from this. And then also don't forget to comment, don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe. I remain Senior Annington. Thank you.